We are all shaped by the world's messages. But for students of color, those messages are not often affirmative. They're in fact corrosive. Think about the sheer volume of noise that we hear on a daily basis. It's the constant, subtle beat of social media posts and images. It's in the distorted and often omitted educational curriculums. We see it in the low-level exposure to racist comments and jokes. These messages directly impact and influence our students. Messages like, you have to work twice as hard if you're a person of color. Questions like, why are you applying to that Ivy League? You will not get in. Messages that our students take in. There's a lot of messaging and conversations that students ages 3 through adulthood absorb. And these messages directly influence behaviors. It impacts their desires. It also influences how they see themselves in the world and how others see them. This is why we must actively combat negative messaging. And to do so, we must commit and be intentional about developing a culture of care. Now, I don't stand before you today because I have been immune to these experiences. In fact, the first time I can recall the impact of its power was in the 2nd grade. I was one of a handful of Black students in a predominantly white class. It was there that I learned my voice was not celebrated. In fact, it was labeled. I had a lisp. I remember sitting in the parent-teacher conference and the teacher suggesting I be retained, not because I didn't master the math and reading skills, but because I pronounced S words differently. The subtle message that was sent was, you're not smart enough. You're not good enough. In that moment, institutional labeling and bias defined me. It boxed me in. Years later, the negative messaging came from someone a little closer to me. My great uncle told me I was too Black and too ugly to ever be loved. That message was clear. The skin tone, my skin tone, made me unworthy. Unfortunately, my stories are not unique. I've heard several similar stories from my high school students, from young professionals that I coach, from seasoned staff members that I supervise, and from the countless college students that I've taught and advised. Their stories were similar. This is why we must be radical and intentional about our decisions to cultivate a culture of care. And I'm sure if I survey the room, many of you can recall a time when you received negative messaging and the impact it had on you. This is why we need to move from stereotypical, traditional trainings, those one-time diversity sessions. We need to move past checklists that are connected to social and emotional learning, and we're simply going down that list. And we need to move to being intentional about creating a culture of care. But to do that, it's going to take everyone in this room. It's the parents, the educators, community members coming together and making a decision to recognize that we need to affirm our students' identity and create spaces where they can be flourishing and also where a place where they can know that they are supported. So in the schools, we need to ask ourselves, am I centering all of the stories? Am I interpreting my students' confidence as defiance? Am I looking at my students through their diagnosis, or do I see their potential and their limitless possibilities? In the community and in our homes, we have to ask ourselves, am I equipping my student, my child, with the tools they need to grow and to believe that they are worthy and they have the power? We have to do this work, and we can do this work. And so I want to ask you a question. Will you join me as I continue this great work of cultivating a culture of care for our students? Why? Because they deserve to know that they do not just have to survive, but they can thrive, and that there is greatness inside of them that can be unlocked. I believe we can do it. I know we can do it. Thank you.